everyone, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today I'm doing part 2 of the My Monthly Hero kit. This is the September 2017 card kit. And so part 2, we always do card number 6 through 10. So we're going to jump in with card number 6. I'm going to start off by stamping the large pumpkin in the stamp set. I'm using the Butter Bar ink. This little ink cube also came in the kit. I'm going to stamp the base of the pumpkin on a piece of white cardstock, and then I'm going to grab a piece of masking paper. We're going to do a little masking for card number 6. So I'm going to do the same thing on my masking paper. Okay, once we have that done, I'm going to go in with the second layer of the large pumpkin. These pumpkins were so easy to layer, oh my goodness, and very forgiving because you didn't have to be perfect, which I really like. I went in with some orange soda, and then now I'm going to go in with the third layer using the Cup of Joe. And all of these ink cubes came along with this kit. Once I have my big pumpkin done, I'm going to grab the small one and do the exact same thing. I'm going to use the Butter Bar for the base, and I'm going to stamp the same base of the little one on my masking paper here. And then just to change up the color a little bit, I'm going to go in with the orange soda. Stamp the second image right on top there. And then for the third, I'm going to grab the pumpkin pie. So we have 2 pumpkins, but 2 different colors. I thought that would be nice. Now, in this stamp set, there's one single leaf. I'm going to take that, and I'm actually going to use a Hero Hue ink cube from my stash. I believe this one is Green Fields, and I'm going to bundle 2 of them together and stamp them twice. Once on the masking paper, or twice on the masking paper, and then twice on my cardstock. And then I want a single one also, so I'm going to stamp that as well. Now I'm going to take the coordinating dies. Oh, you know what? The single stamp actually came with the second layer. So I'm going to go in. This is an olive ink from Your Next Stamp. So I'm going to stamp the centers with that. It's a darker color green. And then here you can see I'm stamping the second image on my mask, and I have no clue why I did that. You can skip that step. But I'm just going to take the dies and cut those out, and then I'm going to fussy cut out my mask. Now when I fussy cutted out the mask, I left a large white border around the edges of that. And then I didn't cut out my little leaves on my white cardstock because I wasn't sure if I was going to use those or not. I have a panel that's slightly smaller than my card base, and then I am just going to peel off the backing of that mask, and I'm going to place my pumpkins where I think they're going to look pretty. I'm going to do the same thing to the little one, and then also to the leaves. I'm going to remove the backing off the leaves and arrange them on my panel here. Now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. For this sentiment I chose Autumn. No, I Am Grateful. I'm going to stamp it with Versamark ink. Kind of figuring my placement. And then I have some hot chocolate Nouveau embossing powder. I'm just going to go over my sentiment. And using my heat gun, I'm just going to melt that embossing powder. So now we're ready to make our background. For the background for this card, I wanted some color, but I like to use the items in the kit. So I decided to go in with a Cup of Joe and just do a line straight across my masking paper and my cardstock. And then right on top of the Cup of Joe, I'm going in with some pumpkin pie. And then I thought the Butter Bar would be a pretty color to do next. Kind of blending them all as I go. Very simple to do, but these colors are so pretty, and I really like the outcome that this gave. Kind of like a painted stroke look. It's really pretty. I removed my masking paper, and then I'm going to take that leaf die and stamp right in the center of that masked area. So it kind of has a white halo behind it, and I think that looks so pretty. And then I'm going to add the second layer of my leaf. Okay, once I have that done, I'm taking my Spectrum Noir shimmer pen and I'm going over my background, adding some shine and some shimmer. And then I'm going to add some dimensional adhesive behind the pumpkins. And I'm going to layer them together, basically where I had masked off, showing a little bit of that white outline. And I think that looks really neat. Next I'm going to be using all three of these sunflower, they're brass embellishments. I popped one up with dimensional adhesive, and then I'm just using a glue dot to secure the other two down. And then I'm cutting out one of the leaves that I had stamped earlier, and I'm going to place that on top of the pumpkin. Lovely. Now for a little bit more color, I took the vellum that came with the kit and I cut out 2 strips, and I'm placing them to the left and to the right of this panel, and I'm going to trim off the excess here. And that just adds the right amount of color, I think. I'm going to add some foam tape behind this panel and place that on my card base. I'm using a white card base here. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and that's card number 6. Now for card number 7, I wanted to make a sunflower card, and so I decided to use the butter bar for the base of the sunflower here. I'm going to stamp that on some white cardstock. Once I have that done, I'm going to go in with I believe that was pumpkin pie. I stamped that. And then I wanted a lighter yellow, so this is a sunflower yellow from Your Next Stamp. It was an ink cube from my stash, and I stamped that 3rd layer there, but I didn't think it had enough definition, so I'm going to go in with my pumpkin pie ink and stamp that 3rd layer there. And then I'm going to stamp the center twice. I used the pumpkin pie, and then I went on top with the 2nd layer with the cup of joe. I'm going to take the coordinating die and just cut those out. I'm going to layer up the sunflower by putting the middle piece with a dimensional adhesive right in the center, and then I'm going to curl up the ends of my sunflower just a little bit. Next, I used a stitch rectangle die and I cut out a panel. And then I also created a sunflower mask. I'm going to peel off the backing of this paper and I'm going to place my mask right in the center, a little bit higher than the center on this panel. Now I wanted a little bit of a shaded background, so I'm going in with some Broken China Distress Oxide ink, and it's going to create a real soft halo. And when I removed the mask, you could see it. It's just real pretty. Kind of intense around the edge, but it softens as it goes out. Next, I'm going to stamp the sentiment. For this card, I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says "Sending You Sunshine." I'm just going to stamp it using some VersaFine ink. Stamping the second part right below it. Lovely. Now there's these itty bitty tiny bees, bumblebees, in this stamp set, and they were so cute, and I couldn't believe it, but they actually had a layering part to them too. So I'm actually doing this in reverse order. I'm taking the outline and using my VersaFine ink, I stamped that, and then using the pumpkin pie, I'm going to stamp the solid centerpiece inside those bumblebees. But they're just so simple but so easy. So cute. Okay, I'm going to add some foam tape behind this panel. And I'm going to put this on my card base. For this card, I'm just using my regular white card base. And then I'm going to add some dimensional adhesive behind my sunflower. And place that. I kind of had to turn it a little bit to match my masked off area, and I just placed it on my card here. Now I did add a few leaves here and there using that same small or single leaf stamp. And then I decided to go in over the sunflower and the bumblebees and the leaves, and also with my Spectrum Noir shimmer pen. And then I went over the leaves in the center of the flower with my Nouveau Crystal Glaze. And that's it for that card. Now, moving on to card number 8. We are going to jump in. We're going to stamp these 2 vines. Now, first I started stamping it with the green fields. And when I stamped it, I didn't like it. I think that ink cube has had its day. So I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to grab an olive ink from C&CT Stamp, and it's a darker ink. I'm just going to ink those vines up, flip my base over, and restamp. And I like the outcome of this one a lot better. Now for the second layer of these vines, I decided to use, I believe this is a midnight green, and I'm going to just ink that up and stamp my second layer on both of those vine images there. Now I went ahead and I stamped the small pumpkin. This is the third layer here. And then I decided for the background for this card I wanted to use the ink cubes. So I'm taking the ink cubes and stamping 2 across and then 3 down. And as I finished stamping these, I realized I got these way crooked. So I ended up restamping them again on a separate piece of white cardstock. And the second time it turned out better. And I liked the look that it had some white areas in my little cubes. I think that looked so neat. And if you guys want to see close-up pictures, you can visit my blog because I use a different camera. And so you'll really be able to see how neat this looks, basically. Now I cut out my pumpkin and my vines, and I also cut out the panel here that I created. Now we need to stamp our sentiment. So I grabbed a piece of brown cardstock from my stash, and just using some Versamark ink, I'm going to stamp the hello. I just heat embossed it, added some white embossing powder, and then I just fishtailed one end and then trimmed it down. Now I'm going to add my vines to that bottom left corner. And then I'm popping the pumpkin up along with the sentiment together with some dimensional adhesive. And I'm going to place that right over those vines. I cut out another panel that was slightly larger than this one and put it right behind this. Here you can see I added some shimmer. And then I added some foam tape behind that panel, and I'm going to place that in the center of my card. And this is a white card base also. And that's card number 8. Now for card number 9. I'm going to use my Distress Oxide ink. This is actually Vintage Photo. And very heavily I'm going to go around the edges of this panel. This panel is like a 1/4 inch smaller than a standard size card base. And we're not going to be able to see the center, so I just skipped that part. Next I have some Perfect Pearls Mist. This is gold. I'm going to shake it up really good, and I'm going to spray it on top of this panel. And it really gives an aged look, almost a velvety look to the oxide ink. And I think it looks really pretty. Real shimmery and shiny. Love that. I'm just going to flip that over, and then using my tape runner, I'm going to go ahead and grab my card base. And for this card base, I'm just using another standard white card base. Place that in the center of there. And that's our panel there. Okay, now we need to work on the centerpiece. Now I have this die here. I'm taking a piece of white cardstock. And this does a die from My Favorite Things, and I'm sorry I don't know the name of it, but it creates a frame and then it cuts out the inside. I'm going to work on that inside piece here. I'm going to stamp the large pumpkin 2 times. there's the first one. I created a mask, so I'm just going to cover that up, and then I'm going to offset the second pumpkin, the same size pumpkin, and then I'm going to use different colors. So the pumpkins are 2 different colors. I'm going to go on with some tangerine. Okay, now I did create another mask, and I'm going to mask up both of the pumpkins for this one. Now I have been using this. I love using my wood grain stamps for the fall season, and this is actually my favorite one. I'm going to ink this up with a brown ink, and then just stamp directly on top of that dome shaped panel here. And I love the effect that this gives, especially when you remove the masking. I think it looks so neat. Kind of earthy. Really like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and stamp the stems for both the pumpkins. For the sentiment for this card, I chose the sentiment that says Autumn Greetings. Autumn Greetings. And I'm just inking up my sentiment with some VersaFine ink. And you'll notice the sentiment kind of has a dome, a curve shape that fit that dome perfectly. So I just stamped it right in the center. Now I'm going to adhere that to my card base, right in the center. And I didn't adhere the frame. I'm going to lift that up, and then this kit came wrapped up with some raffia, a green and a natural raffia. I used both of those to tie a bow around the bottom of that frame, and then popped it up with some foam tape. I'm adding a few green sequins here and there to bring out that green and the raffia, and that's it for that card. Now for our final card, I wanted to do another sunflower card, and so I'm taking the sunflower die, just the die, and I'm going to cut that out. Once I have that cut out, I'm going to take the stem and arrange it the way a flower would normally be. And so I have the outline of my sunflower here on this panel. Now I'm going to grab my Broken China Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to go around the edges of this panel very lightly. Lovely. Okay, now I had already stamped and cut out the sunflower and the leaf. Now I'm taking my scissors and I'm going to fussy cut around that die cutted area, taking out all the white. So I still have the leaf and the sunflower, but just no white edge on it. And then I'm just touching up the edges with some oxide inks. I popped up this panel with some foam tape and placing that on my card base. And then using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, I'm going to place my flower in the center here. So the flower is kind of recessed. But I did make an extra center, so the center is actually the same level as my background, which is really neat. I'm just adding my leaf down there. Lovely. For the center of the sunflower, I'm using some honey gold Nuvo crystal drops. Here you can see how pretty it is. I love the way that looks. After I added the honey gold, I did go around the outline of the flower area, added some of that Nuvo crystal drops to that area as well. For my stash, I have some droplets. These are clear droplets from Pretty Pink Posh, and they're 2 different sizes, so I added a few here and there. And after I got it done, I thought, oh my goodness, I don't have a sentiment. So I took a chance and stamped the word hello on the bottom, and it stamped beautifully. I got lucky this time and decided not to add the bow. And that's card number 10. So I hope this inspires you if you got the September kit. Gives you a few ideas on what to do with it. I thank you so much for stopping by. If you like this tutorial, I love to hear your comments or even give me a thumbs up. And if you're new and want to see more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Here's a quick look at all 5 cards I made for today. And if you missed part 1, I'll try and remember to leave it at the end of the video. Sometimes I forget, but I'll try to remember. Have a fantastic beginning of your weekend, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.